And we are recording. Hello, Anita. It's so good to have you here. Today's special member spotlight chat. It's not really an interview, it's a chat where everybody can get to know one of our members better, is with the wonderful Anita Kaiser from Anita Kaiser Wellness. Hi, Anita.
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me here.
You're so welcome. Would you like to start by introducing yourself? And then I'll have
Sure.
a little question
So
time.
I'm Anita Kaiser, and my business is Anita Kaiser Wellness. I work with sensitives, empaths, starseeds, taking them from shame to superpowered. And I'm having a little shift in my business, although this is the work I've been doing for years. I'm currently embracing the healing that I do in the sacral chakra to really help remove the shame and heal the sexual abuse, the sexual traumas that so many of us have been through.
Yeah, and is it a bummer that so many people have been through it? The statistics are frightening, really.
Yeah.
Yes, so we met years ago now. I reckon probably 2018, 2019,
Yes.
or abouts, in Tash Corbin's Takeoff program.
Yes.
We've both bought each other's services, so I can talk about how brilliant you are from experience.
Yes. And certainly, I mean, the planning work I did with you, gave me such a fabulous understanding for how to move forward with my business.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, it's like there are no words really to describe working with you, because you're so, I want to say psychic. I know you don't really say that you are psychic, but it was like it really, when we first started working together, because I've done EFT with you, haven't I? Just to let everyone, that's basically what we work on. And I'd say overall, you have helped me to regulate my nervous system much more and to get more in my body. Whereas when I first came to you, I was almost 100% in my head.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, we'd be tapping away and you'd be going, what happened then? And I'd be like, how did she know? How did she know what's going on in me? So part of that is because you're an empath. Part of it is because I was blinking a lot, which I didn't realize at the time. But talk to me about you being an empath, what that's like for you, and how it makes you such an incredible, I was going to say therapist practitioner.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the thing when working with nervous system regulation. And it's funny, as you were saying that, I was thinking about one of the things you said to me about how I talk so slowly, right? And I find that so funny because my whole life I'm going, right? And when I'm out walking, I walk quickly, like I hike quickly. There are a lot of things that I do very, very fast. And I think this has been a really big part of regulating my own nervous system, giving myself space to slow down. And, when we're not safe and we're still a highly functioning member of society, we're moving quickly because that's what we're taught. And so, in the work, when I work with someone, slowing things down so I can see what's happening, that is a huge part of the work that I do. Because until you notice what's happening in your own system. You can't change it. And you can't notice when you're moving at light speed. This is part of
whether
all
that
the
be physically or
distractions
in your
in the
head.
world. It's like it keeps us in our head, and it keeps us thinking we're doing all the right things up here, but it's impossible to actually connect in and be embodied from this space.
And can you explain what embodied means to you? Because I know there's people in the group who, well, have no idea what that actually means. And I now know from working with you and working with other body working practitioners, but from your point of view, what does embodiment or being embodied mean? And why is it that you're taking your clients there?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things here. Embodied means feeling safe in the body, being able to walk through life with more presence, with more ability to stay even through the discomfort. And there are many, many things that are uncomfortable in our life. And as women, anger can be very uncomfortable. Sadness, for everyone, sadness can be very uncomfortable. But those are just regular emotions that, you know, are a part of the roster of being alive. And we are taught to spend so much time fighting that, which keeps us disembodied, disassociated, disconnected. So becoming safe allows us to be embodied. And for me, why I believe this is so important, there's a few different reasons. But when we start talking, the planet right now, new earth energy, ascension, 5D, if any of those things are goals of yours, they are not, my personal belief, we are not getting those from going up in the way we all believe. It actually comes from being in the body and connecting to the planet. So if those are things that you deem to be desirable, being in the body is the first step.
Now, for the people in the group who have no idea about New Earth Energy, 5D, can you explain what you're talking about? I mean, I know it's a huge subject, but for people who don't know what that's about, what that is, can you? Because here's another thing that I know about you. You're a priestess.
Yes.
And I'd love for you to tell us a bit about that as well. So I've got so many things I want to tell you. But first, where should we start? The priestess or the 5D New Earth energies?
Well, I think the priestess, I've been a priestess for a long time. And certainly in this lifetime, I have done actual priestess trainings. Before you and I saw each other in person, I was at mystery school. That was additional priestess training. 5 years ago, I did a 200-hour priestess training. And what I've realized as well,
what does it mean to be a priestess? And what did you learn in that training?
So here's the thing. Being a priestess to me is, again, about presence, being present, and understanding my role on a grander level for right relationship with the earth, right relationship with myself. And one of the big things for me, I mean, there are so many different aspects that were awoken, through both the mystery school and the priestess training. But they really are about owning myself and filling up from the inside out as opposed to the outside in. So there were some other pieces that I think are important, and this, you know, we spend so much time, there's so much media and information coming at us about being princesses, right? From the fairy tales we start off with, and it's this whole program. And all of that teaches us to sit on our little stool and wait for somebody else to do whatever it is.
Mhm.
And when you step into priestess or goddess, you are taking charge of your life. You are stepping out of the role of victim and remembering that you have the power.
Yeah, beautiful. So, how does the 5D New Earth energies to people who don't really know or understand that, the people who already know, they know what you're talking about, but there's going to be people who don't. Can you give a little intro?
Yeah. So, I mean, I used to think 5D, New Earth was a place we were going to. Like, are we there yet? What's happening? But I have since realized this is a way of being, and in the simplest of terms, how I see this, and I think, lots of us see it a little bit differently, but the simplest piece for me, New Earth energy, is when we move out of the head and into the heart. And we allow our heart to lead us. And sometimes those things don't make logical sense, but the heart is steering us, and New Earth is about heart energy. So the more we lean into, the more we are able to connect and hear what our heart really desires. This is the New Earth.
And it's funny, isn't it? Because it's always like whenever I'm in my head too much and I'm having trouble with decision, and you've helped me with that, I'm just like, okay, what does my heart? And it's always so freaking obvious what the answer is. It's like when you go to the heart and take a few deep breaths, it's very clear what the answer is when I can't make a decision. And it's just like, okay, let the heart lead.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so beautiful when we let our heart lead. And, sometimes it is. Oh, okay, that's really what my heart wants. Well, now, how on earth am I going to do that?
Yeah, and we don't always need to know, do we? It's just like we just take the next step. It's like, and
That's right.
it's so interesting because I often think so many of us who appear to be doing very different work are actually, we're all doing the same work in a way. We're just all wanting each other to live their best, most authentic life in the way that is right for them.
Yes. Yes. And this, I think, going back to being an empath, being a sensitive being, from a very young age, I saw a lot of things. And by that, I just mean somebody would walk into the room and I would right away see what they're feeling and be really aware of that. And lots of times, certainly as a kid, people did not like that because we're often not even in tune with what's actually going on with us. We've become so masked, so disconnected that we don't even notice when we're short or, not feeling well or low energy or whatever it is. So this creates a lot of challenges when you grow up like that, when you're able to see these things, and it certainly made me feel like I was very alone and like I was really strange. And the more I gotten into this work, the more I've realized, it's like 30% of the population.
Yeah. And a lot of people are putting a lot of energy to try and hide themselves from people. So when people are putting that much energy and someone just comes along and sees who you are, it must be a bit freaking annoying for them, mustn't it?
Yeah. And I think probably in most cases, they're not even aware of how much masking has occurred, because this is the norm. You're just expected to mask. This is the program. You get in line. And especially, if we've gone to traditional school, like regular school, it doesn't matter what country, this is the deal. You go to school, you learn to follow the leader, you get in line,
You shut
and
up,
that's the way it is.
be quiet, do as you're told.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, you talked about star seeds and the sacral chakra.
Yes.
Would you be kind enough to enlarge upon star seeds first, perhaps?
So, star seeds, this is, I've always felt connected to the stars, but this is actually, since Dom and Her, this has become so much more obvious to
Let me just
me.
tell the people who are watching, Anita and I went with another wonderful lady who's in the group to Dum and Her. I can't pronounce it properly. Which is a spiritual community in northern Italy. And we just had the best time, didn't we?
It was so much fun.
We had the best time. There's these incredible underground temples, and we went and we had a tour of it, and then we had VIP meditations down the in the temples. Thank you. And then there was a sacred forest where we did more meditations, and we learned about the philosophy of the community and the man who started it. And they're very much into communicating with, they say aliens, but it's not aliens as in little green men, is it? It's different energies.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Oh, come on.
So I think, star seeds, I mean, this idea that we are more than just this earthly incarnation. And many of us have had memories or things flash up from past lives, past experiences. And so through Dom and Her, this awakened a deeper connection with the star beings, with the light energy. And through my own journeys, I've also had memories of being various other beings. So, at the time, those, I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And now this year, I've read a few different books that have just really expanded that awareness. And I think too, there are a lot of different, being sensitive, being an empath. This is our deep connection to the stars. That's part of what gives us these deeper abilities, I believe.
It's all so fascinating, isn't it? Sacral chakra. Can you give us a quick rundown on what the chakras are, and then what about the sacral chakra and how you work with the sacral chakra?
Yeah. So the chakras, these are the energy centers in our body. And I have a background as a yoga teacher. So in my yoga life, that is where I became familiar with the chakra system, these 7 basic chakras that we talk about in yoga that most people are familiar with if you've heard of the chakras. There are many more, but those are the 7 that we talk about. They run from the base of the spine to the crown of the head. We have the base chakra at the root, and each chakra is responsible for different energies, different body parts, different thought processes. So the sacral chakra is the second chakra as we move up from the bottom. And it is the center of creativity and the feminine essence and sexuality. And so, of course, if there is sexual trauma in our history, it is stuck in the sacral chakra. And for me, because one of my big missions, reason for being on the planet at this time, is clearing shame for the collective, and specifically the sexual shame. That's how they connect for me.
Okay. And you say that you are clearing shame for the collective. That feels big.
Yeah, it is. And
how, what I'd like to know is, how do you do that? First of all, thank you. Okay,
yes. So,
but yeah, what does that look like for you?
So a lot of that is just done by being me. This is just part of, it's not like I sit down and decide, okay, today I'm going to clear shame for the collective. As I wander through life, as I be me, this just automatically begins to happen for people. And so, of course, in the one-to-one container, we are working very specifically, but that is always going on underneath. And even in this conversation, this is happening because we are connected, but you might not feel it. And that's the piece, right, where it's out of the mind into the heart. And mostly what people have said my whole life is, after spending time with me, they feel better, whether we've done something specific or it's just sitting beside me, it just feels better. And so owning this as one of my gifts, this has been a journey, because for a long time I'm like, well, I don't know what that looks like. Is there proof? Where's the proof? Yeah. And this is, but it's been said to me over and over again, and I just know it to be true now. I know it to be true, and I'm happy to own that.
And that's so beautiful. It's interesting because today in co-working, we always ask a question from the Diary of a CEO conversation cards, and today I'm just going to see if I can find it to get the actual question. What pain do you enjoy having? And that was asked by Russell Howard, who is a English comedian. When I read it, I was like, I don't enjoy any pain. It's like, you know me, I've said to you about yoga, I don't like it, it hurts. And like when I was thinking, probably most people like pain from exercise, which some people did share about that. But after all the other people had spoke, I was like, actually, I like to feel the emotional pain that I can release. And I was like, yeah, I pay Anita so that I can go and feel emotional pain, and so that I can release it. So I thought that was interesting that card came up today whilst we were the day that we were having our conversation.
I love that. And I think, for me, over the years, I've realized each of us, mostly in the subconscious, we're willing to let go of a certain amount of pain. But sometimes it's more comfortable to hold on to that because it's known. And to walk through to the other side, you can only do that with a certain amount of trust that there's going to be something better.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think very often there's a certain amount of that we can do on our own with our own processes and our own tapping and our own journaling. But sometimes you need someone by your side to go through it with you. And you've just been amazing, an amazing partner in crime for helping me free some of my stuff. And it's really and it's only come to me as we've been talking about how you're releasing shame for the collective and how you are so comfortable to freely talk about sexual abuse.
Mm.
Because so many people are not.
Yeah.
And I know you put something out the other day about most people who you work with have been sexually abused. And I was like, I haven't. It's like, that's what went in. It's like, but I haven't. Like, I want people to know that I haven't. And it's interesting, isn't it?
Mm.
That I'm carrying that shame, even though I haven't had that experience in this lifetime.
Yeah.
But I think we could safely say that everybody has had that experience through multiple lifetimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is interesting that there is so much shame, even for people who have not experienced it. And isn't that sad?
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of shame around sexuality in general.
Okay.
I think that is, even like as a woman, and certainly as a more mature woman, standing up and saying, I am a sexual being, that's not really comfortable. It's not really, there's a certain time in your life where maybe it's okay to be sexual, but really there's there's a lot of rules around that as well. You're allowed to be sexual up to a point, but then if you're too sexual, then, there's all kinds of things said about that. And if you're not sexual enough, it's this very slim margin of acceptability. And so, most of us are somewhere outside of that slim margin of what's deemed acceptable. So there's shame around that.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you find that people like bring sex to their sessions with you, or is it something that comes up, or is it more of this, like you're saying, it's something that the release is just happening as a result of all the work that you're doing? Or a combination of the above.
Yeah, and I think that's generally what it is. It's not a place where we generally start because it's not comfortable, and you need to have safety to be able to comfortably talk about this. And so, for me, creating that sense of nervous system safety is the number one priority. You can't heal, you can't do any of the, things most people want to do in session without that sense of safety. And what I have learned about the nervous system, especially for those of us who are, A-type personality, we're like, I'm going to dig in, I'm going to get this right, and I'm going to do it, and that's not the way the nervous system works. The nervous system has its own speed, which can be really challenging. And it just goes back to this slowing down to give your system the space to feel safe, to trust yourself, so then we can move into this healing. So sex does come up. Past sexual traumas do come up, but generally much further down the line, like when when we work together for a year or, the 6-month mark. And it's usually when something has been triggered where people realize, oh my goodness, that pattern is carrying forward. Whatever I learned there to be quiet, to hide, to mask, to avoid, I see how that's playing out in 32 different ways in my life.
Yeah. And it is all about noticing those patterns, isn't it? And releasing it so that we can live to our full potential.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think too, this work, there's lots of work you can do on your own, as you said.
Yeah.
But this sort of deep work, it's really scary to do on your own. And most of us do not have the capacity, myself included. Like, I don't, these days, I do a little bit, but really up until I would say this year, I don't like to do the deep work by myself. And it's really just having someone hold the space so that my little girl feels safe.
And I've always felt so safe with you because you are so boundaried and so compassionate and empathetic, and you always check out how I'm doing. You all ask at the end of every single session, was there anything you'd like me to have done differently? So far, the answer has always been no.
And I just want to acknowledge there, Heather, it's such an important piece. And for most of us, it's quite challenging or even confronting to be able to say, you know what? That actually didn't work for me. That right there, I didn't feel seen, or, whatever the experience is that we had. And I know I've had to work through that myself. There have been times in other sessions with other people where, I've been the client and I'm like, you're not tuned in. You're not. I can feel it. And, that's why it's so important to me to give that space and allow the people I'm working with to find their voice. And maybe there isn't anything, but if there is something, I want to give that opportunity.
And again, that's the thing, that it makes it safe because there is the opportunity. And I always feel that it's completely genuine. I don't feel like you're just doing it as a just to tick it off. I always feel that you genuinely want to know. And I do, like, just in this moment, I'm thinking, well, I wonder if that is why there isn't ever anything, is because you don't push against you're completely comfortable with being human, and that the fact is there may be things that obviously don't gel, don't work, so therefore there aren't so many because you're not pushing against it. Whereas maybe sometimes when people want to be perfect, want perfection, only want to do their best all the time, then it can backfire sometimes, because what we resist persists.
Yeah.
What we push against comes up bigger.
This is a part of the rigidity that often happens with trauma, right? Whatever kind of trauma, there's one way to be, and this is the only way. And, there's no space for softness in that. And certainly the more healing work I've done, the more authentic I feel, the more grounded and centered in myself, the more I'm like, oh, well, that didn't go the way I wanted it to. I would have chose it had I had the choice. I would have chosen something different, but it didn't go the way I wanted to. I'm responsible for that mistake, if that's the case. And that's okay. It's okay. But I didn't start there. Right? It's been a journey for me to really accept those mistakes, those, failings, those, whatever you want to call them,
being,
those
being
lessons,
human,
those opportunities.
being human.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, is there anything else you can think of that you'd like to share? We've heard a lot about your work. What about the wider world of Anita, so the group can get to know you? Whereabouts in the world are you? What do you love to do?
So I'm in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And, for me, we've talked about being a priestess, and part of this connection to being a priestess to me these past 3 years, or maybe 4 years now, is the deep connection with the water that I have. And, the more time I spend looking at this and really working to understand it, I realize I've been connected to the water my whole life. When I was young, I was always called a water baby. I am a Cancer, moon sign. And so,
And you shared that, I don't know if it was a reel or something on social media somewhere, with the view of that lake. And I was just like, oh my God, that is cool. And I'm not a water person at all. And yet even I was like, oh my God, that looks lush.
yeah.
And you spend a lot of time at that lake, don't you? Is that right?
I go to Lake Ontario a fair bit, and I also have a cottage on a lake.
I think it was
So,
the cottage it was at the cottage lake that I'm referring to.
yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. I just had that
That's
memory of that gorgeous, yeah.
That's okay. And this connection with the water, I've realized a few years ago that the water is speaking to me. And of course, the deeper I get in sacred relationship with water, the more emotional I am, because water is flow and emotion. And so I've really been embracing this year, as emotions come up, as I'm speaking with someone, sometimes there's tears, and that just is what it is. And it's okay. Just allowing that. So working with the water and deep, deep connection with the land as well. As I drive through my city, as I go out into the world, when I see trees, or, trees being cut down, trees that have damaged, or, like roadkill on the street, I'm constantly like sending love out into the world, to the planet, as I drive, and talking to the trees. I'm sorry, friend. I'm sorry you had that experience. And, that's just part of who I am.
And I love, you often share in the group your your animal adventures. And I really appreciate that, because I do love nature and the animals too, and they always bring me so much joy. So whenever anyone shares something animally, I'm always like, oh.
Yeah. It's funny, this morning we actually saw 3 deer on our hike, and I haven't seen the deer all summer, and it's always a little alarming to me. I get a little bit upset. So it was really beautiful. We saw Mama with her 2 babies this morning, and we separated them inadvertently on the path. I saw the 2 young ones go one way, and I saw the mama go up the hill, and she stopped at the top of the hill. And I was like, all right, let's hurry through here so they can reunite again. And yeah, it was such a beautiful moment. And again, it's just presence to be able to see that, to notice that, and to know, I mean, all of this, we are all connected. We are a part of the earth. We are a part of the trees. We are a part of the plants and the animals.
And each other.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Homeschooling. That's just coming up. You're saying about the usual, the normal school and stuff. Didn't you have a fantastic adventure with your family traveling around?
Yes. Yes. So I did homeschool. I did homeschool for a long time. And as part of that journey, we spent a year and a half in an RV traveling across Canada and the US. So, I mean, all these things we're talking about, these are just examples where I have tried on the outfit that was given to me and it has not fit. And so I have had to break the mold and do these things.
And the last thing that's coming to mind is your business journey has been, you've like had a really varied business journey as a businesswoman, haven't you? Can you tell us a bit about where you've come from to get to where you are now?
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years now, or maybe 16 years now. So, you know, I started with an MLM actually, and like an organic eco products MLM. And then I owned a retail store, an eco retail store, and I taught yoga to babies and children and then adults. And then I moved into coaching, and that's where I've been now for the past 5 years doing this work.
And you do a lot of EFT, don't you?
Yeah, EFT is the primary modality that I use. Although sometimes we pull from my yoga background and, you know, using my intuition, but I really love EFT. And as a sensitive being, I've tried a lot of different modalities, just as I'm sure you have. And many of them were too much for my nervous system. And so EFT, I really love the way that has helped me regulate and really come home to myself.
You were the first person that I heard it from. Don't know if that's the right thing, where we just did holding the points rather than tapping. And it was such a revelation to me. It's still like now, it's like, oh my God, that feels so nice. And so,
And I mean, that,
you know, and sometimes tapping is great. I'm not knocking tapping, and sometimes I do tap, and other times I hold. But it was, it was just a really like eye-opening, and it's so simple, isn't it? And yet so profound, which is often the way with these things. Sometimes the simple things are the most profound. In fact, I think I made a reel. I was on Instagram only for about a month or so, and I remember making a reel about tapping and holding.
Yeah. And that, I think, you know, again, when you're sensitive, when we're overstimulated, the world is so overstimulating, adding this can be too much, right? And that's especially when you're on the more anxious attachment style, rather than, you know, there's more anxiety in our system, more energy buzzing.
Excuse
Bless
me.
you.
I'm
Bless
just
you.
from that bit of holding. Carry on.
And when you have more depression, you know, when things are slowed down, locked down, the energy is stagnant, the actual tapping can be a little more helpful to stimulate flow.
Yeah. Genius. Well, Thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to add? I want you to tell people, obviously, where they can come and find you if they would like to come and work with you or stay in touch or get more information. Where are you on the interwebs?
So Anita Kaiser Wellness is where you'll find me on all the socials. And my primary, I am mostly on Instagram, but YouTube as well. I have a Facebook page and, of course, my website. And I currently have a freebie on my website if you're interested in getting weekly love letters from me. They are a deep dive into my heart and what I'm seeing in client sessions, often what I feel like the collective needs. And I just actually, I would love to just share, because I do this sacral work, I often do collective work with others where we come together and heal. We did some collective land clearings together, and more recently we did some collective clearing of the money lines. And the other light workers, they're all in a much lighter realm, and so they come back with, oh, that felt really lovely, champagne bubbles, this, that, and the other. And because of the work I do, I always feel the sludge. That's part of what I'm clearing. And even just being able to stand there and say, yeah, I didn't experience what you did. I felt something different. And this is part of the power of the work I've done. Sorry, I just had to add that because I think it's important.
Yeah.
And I think so many of us think there's something wrong with us when we're seeing something different than what most of the people are seeing. But what that actually means is you just have a different gift. You're here for a different reason. And it is so needed.
And it's almost like you are the antidote to toxic positivity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm all about making peace with where we really are, not where we're pretending to be.
Yeah, well, and this is, 100%. I mean, I'm sure I've said that a billion times, right? Finding peace with what the truth of this now moment is. It's when we're fighting against it. And of course, I mean, I do it sometimes too. I want things to be the way they're not.
Yeah.
And that only creates suffering for us.
Well, thank you so much, Anita. I think everyone has had the chance to get to know you much better. And thank you so much for being in the group and participating and sharing yourself and your wonderful life in Canada, and for saying such lovely things about the group. I very much appreciate it. So
thank you so much, Heather.
You're so welcome. I love you, and see you soon. Bye.